Welcome to this round table of the bullet points. As you'll see here, we never use round tables, and we promise we never will. But we're here to have just kind of an open discussion on a topic that we're getting a lot of questions and a lot of feedback on. Where's the ammunition? There's a huge shortage of ammunition right now, and if you've been to your local sporting goods store, whether it's a large retail box store or a mom and pop gun shop, chances are you've had a pretty tough time finding some ammunition. It seems like all the common calibers are pretty much out of stock everywhere, and what we're going to do today is talk about some of the reasons leading up to that. Some of the calibers that we're finding a shortage of are your standard 223 or 5.56, 308, 45, 40, 9mm, and especially 22 long rifle. I've been in a couple of box stores and gun stores recently, and it's not too hard to find like 7mm or 270 or some of the not so common calibers, but it seems like the NATO ones are really disappearing off the shelves. So what we're going to do today is kind of talk about why. But before we do a lot of giveaways here on the bullet points, and one of the local events that we had was a gun show that we were at. We were just at Crossroads of the West gun show this past weekend, and we were doing a giveaway for 100 rounds of 223. So we're giving away some PMC bronze, and if you want to grab the bucket, we'll go ahead and draw our winner.
So they were people are dropping off their names and either email or phone number in the bucket. Obviously, for safety reasons, I'll just read the first name only. But we will be notifying the winner via their contact info that they give us. So to make this fair, not looking, shuffle it around. How many do we have in here?
I think we have about 100.
Yeah, a little over 100, something like that. Okay, not looking. All right. The winner of the 100 rounds of 223 and the coffee mug is Chris.
Chris S.
Chris S. You are the winner.
So Chris will be contacting you with the information you put on your raffle sign-up form, and we'll go ahead and ship you your 100 rounds 223. Congratulations. So, for those of you who didn't win 100 rounds of 223 and maybe looking to purchase some, you're probably wondering why it's not in stock. And there's a variety of reasons leading up to that. There's a lot of hearsay around, there's a lot of rumors floating around, and there's a lot of facts going around. And what we're going to do today is kind of address some of those and, maybe raise awareness and just kind of give you guys some perspective as to why, your local gun shop's not carrying as much as you'd like them to. I think first and foremost, and this is the one that's become more public knowledge recently, is that the Department of Homeland Security as well as other government agencies have been buying up quite a bit of ammunition. What was the DHS? What was their contract for?
It was over 1 billion. I believe it was over 1 billion rounds.
I think it was 1.6 billion rounds of 223.
Even the Social Security Administration was purchasing.
Yeah. Social Security Administration, Department of Education, which I didn't think we armed teachers, but Department of Education apparently needed some umpteen thousand rounds as well. So a lot of government agencies have been buying this up. Now, that's not the sole reason for the collapse in inventory. It's certainly a huge contributing factor because it's taking up a lot of the domestically produced supply, because most of those contracts are with the Fed Rim Chester, the three major American brands. There's a lot of offshore stuff that's being compiled and supposedly being shipped in. We can't really confirm this or deny it completely, but there's been a lot of rumors floating around, and again, I can't solidify this with any hard facts, but there's been quite a few different folks that have been telling us and others on message boards online that a lot of imported ammunition is kind of caught somewhere in customs. So it may be in a container held offshore, it may be in a shipping yard and just not out for distribution yet. So between those two factors right there, and one is for sure true, the other is kind of hearsay, but very well could be. Between those two, that would create a bit of a shortage on ammunition anyway. And then if we take it a step further and we talk about the average consumer, there's a lot of folks that are rushing out to buy ammo right now that otherwise wouldn't be. For example, I don't know, 5 years ago, how many times did you go to the store and buy, you know, a box of 500 22? I mean, a couple times a year, maybe?
Yeah, I could maybe say once a year, if maybe two.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm not saying maybe twice a year. Yeah,
Twice a year, you know, you go through 500 rounds, so maybe you're going through 1,000 rounds of 22. You know, 223, I'm guessing, is probably pretty similar.
Yeah.
You know, we all shoot our guns pretty equally. So, you know, if we take that into account, and now we look at the mindset of the person that's buying ammunition today, because it's not on the shelves, it seems like a lot of people are rushing out to go find it when otherwise, if it was available, they may not. So, you know, having that kind of that decrease in supply and creating a little bit of an increase in demand can certainly lend itself to having, you know, more shortages than would otherwise be necessary.
Yeah, and it's good to go to kind of the root of that. And of course, I think everyone understands that when the kind of what happened, why all this stuff kind of hit us at once, was definitely after the Newtown, Connecticut shooting. It's hard because anytime there's a mass shooting like that of any kind, ammunition, you know, people in the shooting community tend to panic buy a lot, just a little bit. And so that's what's hard, is that a lot of people in the shooting community, you know, we're all on the same page where we're all trying to, you know, buy ammunition, buy parts for guns, buy, you know, anytime, especially here in California, it's like, it's almost on a literally weekly basis where there's new legislature coming out, whether it's you know, trying to ban any kind of so-called assault weapons, you know, which means anything black that accepts normal capacity magazines, which is clearly threatening. You know, it's anything like that where we just have stuff coming down the pike all the time here in a state that's like California, and it's just anytime there's a mass shooting of any kind, that's a new legislature. You know, politicians never waste a crisis. And you know, especially those that are a little bit more on the left, they love to use any kind of tragedy like that and instantly politicize it and turn that into, great, we can put controls on ammunition, we can put controls on selling, we can put whatever. And of course, they're the top sellers of guns, is the people on the left who try to control them. As soon as legislation starts going into effect, us in the shooting community, people can't buy the stuff fast enough. So, you know, they are definitely the top salesman of the year when it comes to rifles, handguns, ammunition, anything like that. So definitely since Newtown, which was at December, January, right around there, December. Yeah. Since then, you know, the last 7 months, 8 months, it's been rough out there. And like you were saying too, with the 22 long rifle, a lot of people that we talk to kind of go like, why can't I find 22 anywhere? Because you think the common calibers, you know, you think of 9mm, 45, 223, 308, you know, kind of the big ones, 12 gauge. And it's amazing though how 22 is one of the hardest things to find, especially you go into a big store like you know, Walmart or anything like that, where people are used to going to get their ammo. It's really weird for those people to see 223 out. Well, you have to understand the mentality of some people in more of a survivalist mindset or anything like that, who want to stock up on the 22 for what they would consider as the perfect survival round. And you know, people have different views and opinions on that. I think I understand their mindset as far as having a 22 caliber where it's good for small game hunting, you know, collecting food. It's not necessarily for self-defense as much as it is for, you know, if you're talking about a major power outage, something like that, especially if you live in a more rural area. It's great if you have some acres you live on, you can hunt for some wild game and you're a good shot. You know, take a little Ruger 1022 out there, or a little sidearm, or whatever it is you have, and you can collect food that way, which is great. But plus it's nice that it's so small. You can store thousands of rounds of it, and it's super light, so if you have to throw it in a bug out bag or you know, whatever it is. So that's kind of the mentality of, you know, to help hopefully that helps you guys understand why why the 22 long rifles is one of the first to goes, one of the first that goes in a time like when the ammunition is kind of in short supply. So yeah, with the other rounds, it's kind of obvious why 223, 9mm, you know, all the other major rounds go first, and they're the hardest to find. But yeah, like you were saying too, you know, you can still find more of the uncommon calibers around, but you're going to pay the premium no matter what kind of ammunition you're looking for. And it's sad because a lot of people, I think, take advantage of that at a time like this too.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we were at a gun show this past weekend, like I just mentioned, and you know, we're meeting some of our fans that were out there, and you know, kind of shaking hands and kissing babies type stuff. And
thanks for coming by the way.
Yeah, for any viewers that came by, thank you very much.
Cool to meet you guys.
It was great to meet you guys. But you know, we took some time and walked away from our booth and started checking out you know, some of the local ammunition suppliers. And there were a couple of guys that had stuff in stock, and they had very reasonable prices. I mean, for today's standards. You know, there are the guys out there that will rake you over the coals. For example, this is a recent catalog from cheaperthangold.com. Here we have listed American quality ammunition, 223, full metal jacket, 55 grain, 250 rounds. Now, any normal time in the last, you know, half decade or so, 250 rounds, you're probably going to be paying, you know, about $100, 40 cents a round or so.
It's probably anywhere between 35 cents to 40 cents.
Yeah, 35 to 40 cents a round is pretty reasonable to pay for you know, 223 or 5.56 in you know, a reasonable market within the last half decade.
And of course, if you're buying in bigger bulk, the price goes down even further. You
Exactly.
might be paying 25 to 30 cents a round.
Correct. So if we look at Cheaper Than Gold and their 223, they've got 250 rounds listed here. And if you'd like to look this up on their site, go ahead. It's item number AMM296. They've got 250 rounds listed for $359.
And 99 cents.
And then 59 cents actually.
And then the nice thing about that is shipping is only like $300, which is awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, you're paying $359 for 250 rounds. That's less tax and shipping, or before tax and shipping. So we're talking, what is that? $1.25 a round, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
somewhere in
That's
there.
enough.
I'm not great at math, but that's like 3 times what you should be paying. 4 times what you should be paying. It's pretty substantial markup. So keep in mind who you're buying from. You know, if you go to your local mom and pop shop, chances are they've probably kept their prices pretty reasonable. I know the box stores have even kept their prices, you know, about where they should be. You know, guys like this, I hate to say it, but I will not do business with them because they are trying to rape their customers. So I hope you haven't made any of those $1.25 purchases for 223. Because it's exorbitantly overpriced.
And they're still sold out.
Yeah, still sold out.
Yeah, they're sold out.
Some idiots are out there buying it. For example, at the gun show we were at last weekend, I may or may not have, or may not know someone who purchased 500 rounds of a very, very similar type of cartridge, still 223, still full metal jacket, but bought 500 rounds for $285.
Yeah.
Now that's at the 40 cents or so price range, right around there. So that's fairly reasonable in today's standards. So you can either get 500 rounds for $285, or you can go with, you know, these folks here and spend, you know, close to $100 more for half the ammunition. It's your choice.
But it makes sense if you think about it.
It does, yeah. It's well, it's bulk purchasing is what it is. Plus the convenience of not having to go to a gun show.
Absolutely.
So anyway, keep that in mind as you're out there purchasing. I mean, you know, go ahead if you find a box store locally and you want to wait in line and do that whole thing, or get in there at 7 a.m. when they stock their shelves to get a box or two, that's fine. But keep in mind that a lot of this is panic buying, and it's not that the you know, manufacturers of ammunition have, you know, just turned off 3 of their 4 production lines. I don't think that's the case. They're still capitalists and they're still trying to make money. So they're going to be running as many as they can, and generally 3 shifts a day. But a lot of them won't expand past a certain amount. You know, this is just a bubble that we're seeing. We saw it in the Clinton administration. We saw it, you know, in '94 with the assault weapons ban. You know, we saw it in 2008 when Obama first got elected. There have just been kind of these ebbs and flows and spikes that have come out during, you know, different times when typically Democrats get in office. And, you know, I think that manufacturers would probably not be making the best choice if they were to go out and buy another warehouse and spend all of the money on CNC machines and all of the money on raw materials and start hiring, you know, loads more people to run these things for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then have this kind of shortage start going on a downward slope and get back to reasonable prices. Now they've got, you know, a lot of extra expenses that they otherwise would. So You know, I think the ammunition manufacturers are probably just kind of playing it cool right now. They're running at capacity, but they're not looking to, you know, double their size and their monetary output every month, because they know that, you know, in 6 months or a year, some of this may die off. It may not. I mean, I could be totally wrong, and they could be totally wrong. But you know, as we see it, there's, you know, certainly the ups and downs, and right now with the big prepper movement, and, you know, a lot of people rushing out to buy something because it's not there. You know, there's a lot more shortage of ammunition than there otherwise should be.
Yeah.
It makes me wish that I had started my gun collection off with a 243 Winchester and a 410.
Yeah.
Because every time I go to Walmart, those are the only 2 rounds that I ever see, and I think they're the same exact boxes every time I go in.
Yeah.
Like, I used to actually have a good contact at Walmart that would call me at, you know, 6:30 in the morning when they got a shipment in, and by the time I was able to put my shoes on and get down there, it was all gone. So and now I don't have that contact anymore, but it's not that it really made a big difference or anything. But I mean, you can find the ammo out there if you're just going to be paying a pretty substantial premium for it. You know, you go to gunbroker.com, you know, or cheaper than gold. You're going to be paying quite a lot of money for it. The only thing I can really recommend is to try to get into reloading, which I'm sure that's not new news to any of our viewers.
What's this reloading? Yeah. I've never heard of that.
Which actually, that
just
was
when you have an empty mag and you put a new one in the slot. Yeah.
It was funny enough. The show we were just at in Del Mar was the opening day, Saturday morning. The vendors outside didn't even have any powder to sell. So
yeah,
they did have the, you know, the bullets and the brass and the primers, but no powder. I know there's kind of a shortage on that as well.
Yeah.
But
I just want to say too, really quick, is that companies like these, like Cheaper Than Gold, I'm with you. Sorry guys, I'm never doing business with you again, because number one, right after the Newtown shooting, they, and of some other companies, select companies, I won't name too many names, but they held off out of respect on selling, you know, their supply for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, out of respect for the victims from the shooting. Which, if that was their true intentions, I kind of understand that. But then what's interesting is they held off for a while, and then as soon as they started releasing they started saying, okay, we'll sell again. Their prices on all their weapons and ammunition had doubled and tripled and quadrupled, because they knew exactly that they were about to make bank off a tragedy. Mm-hmm. That to me is disgusting, and I will never do business with companies like that again, because you're extorting, first off, you're extorting victims. You're extorting your customers who have been loyal to you and done business with you for a long time, who have spent hundreds if not thousands of dollars with you, and you're basically giving them a middle finger saying, we are going to hold you over the coals and basically squeeze every last penny out of you. That's not how you do business. And that's why, if you find a local store in your area that's either a mom and pop shop, even if it's like a bigger chain, thank them if they keep their prices low. You know, like, even if it's a person working the desk that doesn't necessarily own the place, you know, tell them to pass on to their manager. Say, hey, I know you guys are probably having to pay a little bit more, but you're also charging only a little bit more to make up for your extra cost of when ammunition is short. So, you know, it made me appreciate some local gun shops that I go to, that I say, you know, I tell the owners whenever I can, thank you for keeping your prices reasonable, because you're not trying, you appreciate me as a customer enough to still want to charge me what's fair. And a lot of the good stores will tell you they feel sick having to charge what they have to charge, and during crises like this. And companies like this, they can't wait to charge more. And to me, that's sad, because they're just going to lose customers right and left. And I know a lot of people aren't doing business with guys like these anymore. And sadly, I'm one of them. That's inexcusable, that kind of behavior. So it's just hard, because when ammunition is short, you know, like we talked about, a lot of it is panic buying. But, you know, do what you can to treat your customers right. That's the name of the game with any business you run. And I know if we were ever to open up like a tactical store or anything like that where we could sell items like this, I would want to treat our customers with a lot of respect and be very fair to them. And so that's something that, you know, we all are definitely appreciative of stores like that. So yeah.
I don't. It's any company that's going to capitalize on a tragedy like this and, you know, try to make more money is just a company that should not have any customers.
They're not gonna my business.
If we were to open up a company or open up a store, I would make it my life's mission to put a company like Cheaper Than Dirt out of business.
Absolutely.
That's just not right.
Yeah.
And with as much ammunition as we go through on our shoots, we certainly appreciate our local guys keeping the prices low. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cheaper Than Dirt.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. And, you know, if you have overpaid for ammo, maybe you want to go back in and give that guy a second chance. But, you know, if he's still through the roof on prices, then, you know, I mean, just keep that in mind in future business. Is that really somebody that you want to be, you know, patroning with your hard-earned dollars? You know, everybody goes out there and earns a paycheck, and, you know, where you spend it is up to you. And, you know, we spend quite a bit on ammunition and, you know, getting guns to fire so that you, our viewer, can watch and make educated buying decisions. So, you know, the three of us agree that it's inexcusable to have this kind of action following a tragedy and trying to exploit customers. So the gun community is very tight-knit. You guys know that. You know, I'm sure you've got your shooting buddies, you know, the guys that you hang out with and, you know, even just BS with in your local shop. You know, so it's a tight-knit community, and somebody like this that spits in the face of the entire community is just inexcusable in our book. So the three of us will not be doing business with them. Bullet Points will not be doing business with them, and we recommend that you take a good hard look around and make sure that your dollars go as far as they can when you're out there purchasing things. So hopefully we've shed a little bit of light on, you know, the ammunition shortages that are out there. You know, like I said, you know, the government buying up several billion rounds, that's with a B, certainly lent to a bit of, you know, shortage of supply, and then panic buying in addition to that has kind of been the icing on the cake. And, you know, there's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy there. You know, some of our viewers will remember back in the 70s when Johnny Carson was on. A lot of our viewers may be too young to remember that, but back in 73, Johnny Carson did a bit where he talked about a shortage of toilet paper. It was just a gag joke that some writers ran with after hearing that the Navy was short on a couple of ships, and Johnny Carson said it as a joke, as his opening monologue, sometime in December of 73, and the next morning 20 million customers ran out to their local grocery store and bought up as much toilet paper as they could carry.
Wiped them clean.
Indeed, thank you for that. So anyway, they ended up buying up the entire supply of toilet paper. Now, there was no shortage to begin with, but it became a self-fulfilling prophecy because I can't get that out of my head. Thank you. That is a self-fulfilling prophecy that, you know, there's a shortage, so there's this immediate, you know, panic buy, so everyone runs out to scoop up as much as they can to ensure that they have enough. And I'll bet you dollars to donuts that those people were sitting on rolls of toilet paper for months on end. And all the stores ran out. They couldn't get it in. It just became like this, you know, this little trickle-down effect of a joke that had gone bad. So, you know, keep in mind that those self-fulfilling prophecies can happen. And, you know, with the government buying up as much as they have, and, you know, even the quirky agencies like, you know, Department of the Treasury and the Teachers Union, or whatever the hell
was
they are.
it the National Oceanic Institute?
Yes, National Oceanic Institute.
Librarians of America. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, we got to shoot the baby seals, right? So, with them buying up as many millions and billions of rounds as they have, you know, and creating a bit of a dip in the supply, and then, of course, the average guy, even I'm guilty of it, I probably bought more ammunition, you know, or tried to purchase more ammunition in the last year than, you know, I have in a year.
You lost through that boating accident.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I lost all my ammunition in that boating accident. So, but anyway, you know, back to the serious point of a shortage of ammunition. There are some reasons behind it. You know, there are a couple conspiracies floating around there, and I'm not here to deny them. I'll just tell you that you should do your own research and come to your own conclusions. But, you know, there's certainly some quirky things going on out there. So, you know, keep your thumb to the pulse of the news. And I'm sorry, but MSNBC and ABC aren't going to be giving you the full story. They're too busy with, you know, covering Who Won Dances with the Stars or whatever other stupid shows are on. So don't turn to them for any kind of real news. You know, go to places like The Blaze, and InfoWars is a pretty cool one. There's a bunch of Yeah, Drudge Report's another great one. You know, some of them are a little bit tinfoil hat-ish, but you know, there's some. Our cameraman's been drinking. There's some others that are very, very good sources of information. So make sure you tune into, you know, some of the alternative news sources, read up on things, and come to your own conclusions. But you know, the research that we've done, which is pretty extensive and having a pretty good thumb to the pulse of the industry, you know, those are the reasons that we see for the ammunition shortages. So thanks again for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We do giveaways like this all the time. We gave away an EOTech not too long ago to a very, very, very happy customer, or not customer, but viewer.
Can't we only charge him $400 for it?
No, he was pretty stoked. So we do giveaways all the time, whether it's at local events like shows here in Southern California, or you know, online events where, you know, you've got to be a YouTube subscriber of ours, or like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter or whatever. So you know, if you're on any of those social networks, make sure that you subscribe to us, follow us, like us, whatever, and you can enter for a chance to win, you know, giveaways like this, or, you know, some of the other gear that we review. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we shed some light on some stuff for you, and we'll see you next time on the Bullet Points.